Welcome to the In Your Element Fertility Podcast. I'm Jennifer Edmonds. I'm a yoga teacher, Pilates instructor, meditation and breathwork coach. And for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. This is the podcast that blends both science and spirit with everything you need to know as you navigate your fertility journey. If you're looking for a way to support your physical health, your mental health, reduce anxiety, and reclaim some joy back into your life to make the process of trying to conceive feel easier, then you've come to the right place. I'll show you how to apply the latest scientific research along with your energy and mindset to provide you with all the tools you need as you're trying to conceive. This is the In Your Element Fertility Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the In Your Element Fertility Podcast. So I met Stacey about a year ago, and she was in the depths of her own fertility journey. She'd been through multiple losses, an unsuccessful IVF cycle, and she was really struggling with how to navigate moving forwards. She was at the point where she just decided she needed to take a break. And this is where we met. We connected with our stories quite similar, and we were both into the idea of being able to surrender on your fertility journey. And I know that this is a big word, and it is so much harder to do than it sounds. But I think that she gives a really good description in this chat today of how she was able to do that. And she also goes through how her spirituality and her practices of meditation, breathwork, mindfulness, and yoga really played a part in helping her to regulate her nervous system and not just get closer to that positive pregnancy test, but also to making her life feel more manageable and more joyful again. Stacey is now the proud and beautiful mama of a 2.5-month-old little baby girl. And I hope that her story provides you with some hope and some inspiration as to what's possible for you as well. So here's Stacey. Stacey, I'm so excited to have you here. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing good.
It's so lovely to see you smiling and just to connect with you after such a long time. For those who don't know you, can we start a little bit about you and your journey? Where does your journey start? How did you come to meeting me and to where we are now?
I about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, I didn't know there was a whole community that existed out there for support for miscarriages, infertility, going through treatments. You always feel pretty alone. You think that you're the only one going through it, but then there's thousands of people that I've met that are going through it. And I really came on this page to try to, and even for my own self, not stop life because of loss, which is so easy to do. You know, you lose track of time and, everything else. And you feel like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do anything because you're not getting what you want at that time. So I really tried to work through that. And, I even worked through it myself. I came across your page when I was looking for resources and tools to enhance my fertility. I didn't know yoga could play a part in it, or, the meditations and just all of it, So it was nice to come across that. And again, your energy is great with it. What you do for the community is great. So it flowed very well.
Oh, thank you. I felt like that when I met you. You have a bit of a story, which we can go into if you're comfortable sharing. But yeah, you just had this lovely energy, like it just resonated so much with me. And I think it does with so many people that you might have met within this community as well. So can we start at the beginning of your journey? What did your fertility story look like? Where did you begin?
Well, the first loss I experienced was in September of 2021. Yes, it all, honestly, it all seems like a blur when you're going through it, the dates. I was like, okay, you didn't really, you hear miscarriage, but you don't understand it or really feel it until you go through it. So I was like, okay. So then on that point, I was like on Google, okay, it says it won't happen again. It's, the odds of it are slim. Well, come January of 2022, I experienced my second one. And I was like, okay, here we go. Now I'm going to start fertility treatments because of my age too. Everybody's like, oh, it could be the quality of your egg. And I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I eat, I work out, I do everything right. I can only go so far with this whole quality issue. I do have low AMH, so that was another factor. They were like, oh, you're really only getting 1 or 2 eggs possibly that drop each month. I'm like, okay. So I started fertility treatments. We did IUI, didn't work, did 2 of those, did a round of IVF. I got no eggs retrieved, which was more infuriating than anything else, going through all that. So I was like, okay, let me take a little bit of a break. We tried again on our own, got pregnant, and in August of 2022 went through another miscarriage. So I was like, okay, now I'm just really taking a break. I need to just, let it all go. But that's when I came on and created the Soul Mama page and found support, resources, an entire world that I wish I knew a year, prior to that, really. So that's where that was. And then I was seeing a new fertility doctor, but in between there, I went to like a holistic MD who, uses medications only depending on like what you have. And she found that I had 2 infections in my body. My thyroid wasn't optimal for pregnancy, like getting pregnant. So I got that all adjusted. I also started your program and my whole body just re-regulated completely. And we got pregnant in December on our own. Yep, I'm just about to start. We had a failed IUI in Thanksgiving, and then I was like, okay, let me just try a natural cycle, but monitored by the clinic, And because then the next step was IVF again, and I'm like, it's just so hard. IVF is so hard, and I wanted to just see what would happen, and it was like the spontaneous pregnant. We were not expecting it at all whatsoever. We weren't expecting it, and she's here safely, thank God, and about 2.5 months old now.
Oh, I love your story so much. And it really, probably the reason that I really resonated with you is kind of reminds me of my journey a little bit as well. I had a lot of the same issues, medical kind of issues that you did. And I got so frustrated with the medical system and the lack of holistic support. And, you say you went to a natural ND to have a look at things in a little bit more detail. I get so frustrated that these things are not one of the first points of call, whereas IVF does seem to be the first point of call. Did you feel frustrated with this system? And how did you feel then when you came across this more mindful approach?
I felt very frustrated, because I got a call. It's like, okay, well, we'll do it again. And it's like, okay, well, you do it again and again and again. And it's hard because you're going through with the meds, which takes its toll on you in itself, financially, emotionally, and physically. And the infections that she found it was Bartonella and like a mycoplasma. So it was like walking pneumonia pretty much. I didn't even know that I had because I felt healthy. And the other one was like from a mosquito bite or a tick bite or something that I had that I didn't even know that I had. And nobody checked for that. Nobody checked for Lyme's, like these causing all this inflammation in my body, which could be, they can't guarantee it, but that could be a huge part as to why the pregnancies never held because my body was attacking it, thinking, it was foreign. So it was beyond frustrating because here I went almost like half a year, if not almost a whole year, through loss and treatments, and it's just like, what the hell, like why wasn't this called? Why wasn't this checked? And then also too, it's hard because you advocate for yourself to get these things checked, and sometimes you get a pushback, and that makes it even harder because now you're just like, okay, what do I do? In so many different reasons, money wise, time wise, it's just all of it. Yeah.
That's so true. And when you do advocate for yourself, and like you said, you get that pushback, it's like, well, what do I do now? And, our society holds doctors up on this pedestal and they know so much and so much more than we do. And then we start to question ourselves. Okay, well, maybe I'm being overdramatic. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I don't need these things. And, it just takes away that empowerment that we need when we're on this journey.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to hear that you were able to find some strategies.
And I think that's where it came in more with getting out there and advocating is like I changed doctors. I mean, and again, I'll never forget it. I was at the hospital. My OBGYN was like, listen, everybody and what they do and the reproductive endocrinologists in this area are all great. It really depends on who you vibe with. And I was like, You were exactly right, because I went to the next clinic and it was just much different. Like, they were easier to talk to, they were open to helping, like, what I came in with, because at this point, you're doing your own research, you're making your own protocols, and you're going into them this time around saying, "This is what I wanna do. Like, what do you think?" And then you tailor it from there, you make it your own, because when you first go into it, it's so, like, by the book, but you gotta realize, everybody, it's not black and white. There's no black and white in this area,
It
field,
really, really not.
life, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always joke with my students that we end up being reproductive endocrinologists after all this. It's like,
Oh,
I
totally.
never knew how much I would know about fertility and
Yes.
reproductive health.
Yep. Exactly.
Because you don't
Exactly.
know what you don't know. And when, like you said, you're starting, you trust the doctor implicitly. And it's like, well, okay, well, this is my issue. You're the expert. This is what we're going to do.
Mhm.
And to give, credit to doctors where it's due, I mean, they don't know how you're going to respond to treatment, and they don't know exactly how your body is going to react to different medications. So it is a little bit of trial and error.
And it's very hard to, like, I was 38 when I conceived. I was 36 when I had my first loss, 37 had another loss. So it's very hard, because it's like, oh, it's your age, oh, it's your low quantity, here's what you can do to improve the quality of it. Like, it's so many different factors, and that's why it's so easy to jump to IVF, because it's like, okay, this is the easiest way to do it, but it's, for me, it wasn't. Maybe for some that it is, but for me, it almost made me seem like I was getting less because I was so stressed all the time, you
Isn't
know.
that true? And that's something that we don't speak about enough. The stress piece, I think, is huge. And, while it does, I believe, impact fertility long term.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much more to stress in general, when it starts to impact every area of your life, your work, your relationships, your sleep, your physical health. I mean, these are the things that are worthwhile addressing on their own, not just because of fertility.
And I think that I learned through the program too, like doing your courses, that you do have to give your body a rest through this, and different ways to manage the stress and regulating your nervous system, because it's definitely so easy to not have a regulated nervous system through this journey at all whatsoever. You're not going to get it every day. That's just life,
Mm,
but the more you work at it and the more you do it, it does show. It does make a difference.
mm,
Absolutely.
it does.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel going into that last cycle? So, you decided to have a little break, even though you had seen a new doctor, and you thought, we're just going to give it a go. Let's try naturally. How did you feel going into that, both sort of mentally and emotionally?
Fearful. It's hard to not be fearful, because it's like you want it so bad, but then you're so scared of it being taken away, because it has been in the past. And then you get the positive pregnancy test and you're so happy that you get it, but then the fear sets in again. So it's really working through the fear and anxiety the whole time, even during the 2 week wait, even getting into that cycle, because you want to be so optimistic and so happy, but you're also knowing in the back of your head that not everything ends happy, and that's hard, because you want to be happy. It's totally a mind game. But I think for me, I was also not, I don't want to say not expecting, because I was being monitored to see, like, when to do the trigger shot and all that stuff. And I got a call, and the doctor was like, well, listen, this cycle you ovulated early, which I wasn't planning. Obviously, I kept track. I didn't know that I did either, because I was like, well, I'm going to the doctor. Why am I going to keep track of something? But again, because I came off a medicated cycle before that, my cycle was messed up. So that's what I learned through this was, okay, I come off of one, it's not going to be the same the next. And again, it's all trial and error, like you said. But, um, you know, mentally and emotionally, I was scared, I was fearful, and it's a lot, and excited at the same time, because it's always like, okay, this could be it. This could be the cycle that gets us to where we want to be. And thank God and thankfully it was.
Pregnancy after loss is no joke, honestly.
Yeah.
It's no
Yeah.
joke. And, I get so many people asking me, like, at what stage do you feel like you relaxed or, felt confident in the pregnancy. Do you feel like you got to that stage?
At that time, I felt like I did. Now that she's here, I feel like I didn't. I felt like as much as I wasn't holding my breath, I was holding my breath. I didn't want to not enjoy my pregnancy, which I did, and I was happy and I did everything that I wanted to do. But at the same time, I was holding my breath and not realizing how much I was holding my breath again until she came out. And then I was able to take a deep breath. Like I was finally breathing for the first time in 9 months.
Oh,
You know,
Stacey, that's such a big thing to say. Gosh, I'm taking a deep breath with you as you say that. I had the same experience. I remember driving to the hospital with no cause for concern, but just thinking, I'm going to lose him. I'm going to lose him. And for no obvious reason, but gosh, the trauma of this stuff just stays with you, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like hearing the words, like, we have a baby, I was like, okay. And then I was like, where's she crying? Like, all these other things that run through your head while you're like, I had a C-section. So while I was laying there, it's like, okay, I could breathe. And then also too, you never want to admit why you're pregnant, that something can happen. And again, it's just it's a big mind game that you have to learn how to regulate in order to live, life.
You speak about the feeling of dysregulation a lot with your journey prior to falling pregnant, which is obviously something that I am passionate about helping women with as well. How do you think it affected your fertility journey as you got further into it? I mean, no one goes into starting to try for a baby, thinking, oh God, it's never going to happen. I'm so worried, well, hopefully not many of us do that. But when it doesn't happen and when you start experiencing things like recurrent loss, it changes things enormously. So how did you find that affected your everyday life?
Felt like I was like paralyzed, like I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything until I knew that, like, okay, I can get pregnant and stay pregnant. And every time it didn't happen, and the failed pregnancy test or the losses, it kept pushing me back and pushing me back. And until my third loss, I was like, you know, I don't want to use the word accept, but I was like, I have to be able to live life better than focusing on this so much. Like, it is a huge focus in my life, and that's what we wanted. And we were doing everything we possibly could, but I was also pushing like myself back, like just the way that everything that I would do, because it was all based around trying to get pregnant. And I was like, okay. Or if it was a loss, it was, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to get into bed. I just want to sit here and sulk. And, for me, I didn't reach out for support for the first two, but my third one, I had people on dial. I was like, this is what's going on. And then I was able to get a check in. And then that's when I was like, you know what? Like, I am able to reach out for help. I am starting to come out of my shell a little bit more. I am going to feel empowered. I'm not going to let these losses and the negative pregnancy test define my life. And that's when it all just shifted for me.
That's such an incredible point to make. You get to that point where you say, I still have to live my life, and we can't let it dictate every moment of every day without it creating so many more issues than when we started. Did you find that it impacted your relationship as well? How did you guys get through that period?
It was hard. Yeah, it's. I always say it's impossible not to, because you're both stressed. You both want the same end result, and everybody processes the grief differently, the loss differently. And it's not just loss of like the pregnancy; it's the loss of like getting a negative test, the loss of embryos or not getting embryos. There's so many different complex emotions, and that's another thing I learned through this journey, that there's so many you can have at the same time as well. Definitely did impact the relationship, but we made it through, thank God. And even now, having her, it's made us stronger, but also at the same time, like, holy shit, look at what we've been through together. It's not easy. It's not easy.
I think that sometimes you just take a look back, like, God, we really went through the ringer. There was so much that couples shouldn't have to go through. I mean, all of the
Absolutely.
grief, and it's confronting, and people go through difficult situations in so many other ways. There is something
Yes.
very primal about fertility and loss, and it touches people on such a deep level. It's hard to compare to other issues that you've been through in your life, but I'm so pleased to hear that you guys have come out the other end.
Thank you.
So, when you took a break and you decided, I really need to just focus on myself for a while, what sort of things did you notice shifting or changing within your life?
I don't want to say happier. I was more content with surrendering and letting the unknown be unknown when I wasn't, hyper focused, because I get hyper focused. So by taking the break, I was able to just surrender more, be comfortable with the unknown, and just get back to like daily living, like getting up to work out or going for a walk or, meeting up with friends, like that type of stuff too.
Yeah.
You don't realize that you miss parts of your old self through that until you're out with your friends and you're like belly laughing and you're like, oh, wait, I'm like, it's healthy to laugh. It's okay to do this. Still, while being focused on getting pregnant and being healthy and being the best person and partner too, because there's so many different dynamics when you're going through infertility and loss, that you lose sight of.
Mm, you do. And that word you used, surrender, which I think is possibly the hardest thing to do.
Absolutely.
How did you even come close to being able to do that?
Having faith in the unknown, which is still not easy. I mean, one day I would surrender, the next day, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I can't do this. And then I just had to accept that that's okay. Like, these are all normal behaviors, they're processing emotions. There's so much trauma that comes along with this. And you just have to be happy with yourself. And that was a huge thing that, again, that you lose sight of, is your own self and your own self-worth, knowing that this, again, going back to this, doesn't define who you are in life.
Mm. And you're right. I love that you pointed out that one day you can feel that you surrender really well. And then the next day it's out the window, and, you are hyper vigilant and frustrated and angry and all of the emotions. Uh, how do you get to a place of knowing or trusting or believing that it's going to happen for you? How did you get to that place?
Just going back with the faith and hoping and praying and wishing and everything else, and just saying, like, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I know that people say that and it doesn't happen, and it's up to you to decide how you feel about that.
Hmm. So you're quite spiritual, which I love. And I think one of the reasons I first connected with you was you posting a funny video about how many crystals you needed in your house, which I absolutely love. And I think my house is really way too full of crystals as well. Um, but I just love watching how that aspect of things came into your journey. And do you think that the practices of spirituality fit well with yoga and meditation?
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Mm.
most definitely. She has her own crystals in her room now. She has like the stars and the moon, right? I actually found out on 12/12, like the portal, that we could possibly be pregnant. And then 4 days later, I took a pregnancy test and I was. So that's why, like, for me, like, more of like the energy and, like you said, the spiritual aspect of it with the yoga, like, absolutely. Yes.
Mm. Yeah. Did you
Yeah,
feel that that was something that really helped you on your journey, being able to lean into that side of things?
absolutely.
Mm.
Yes. I think people, it's hard because it's like, oh, like, does that make a difference? And for me, it does. And for some, it's not going to. But for me, like, being all into that and, getting the crystals and the support and the yoga and the meditation, it really does help clear your mind and reset for the day, the time, even if it's in a midday reset. And I will always forever lean into that.
Mm. Was it something that
That's
you had as a part of your life before you started trying to conceive, or did you come to this practice or those practices?
No, I did. I had it before. I was always, one. Even when I met her father, it was like he was like, "Oh my God, what are toilets around your house?" And there's crystals everywhere, and the moon water, and
Love
all
it.
of that
The moon
too.
water. Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. We'll have to do an episode on moon water for people who don't know what that means. I love it. Stacey, what sort of advice would you give to people who are struggling on this journey from everything that you've been through and everything that you know now? What would you say to others?
Trust your gut. I know sometimes people say like, "Oh, how can I do that when I'm so overwhelmed and I don't know?" Write down your thoughts, go through them, and on a day that you are more regulated, go back and look and see. Do your own research as always. Reach out to people within this community. Just send them a direct message or just chat with them. Everybody has so many stories and help, and everybody wants to see everybody win. At the end of the day, I would definitely say that. And always try to do something each day that reminds you of yourself before all of this, because you lose yourself in it. You get so wrapped up in it and you lose yourself. I would definitely say try something each day to, like your old self would do, while mixed with your new self with it. Lean into the unknown, lean into the faith, and choose what practice works best for you, with it. Right.
That is such
And then
advice.
doctors, and like you said, you give them credit and everything else, but you got to be your own. Like you said, you end up being one at the end of the day. So I would definitely just say try to do something each day that your old self would do, and schedule dates with your friends, schedule dates with yourself, with your partner, with because again, it's so consuming. It's I remember packing a cooler because we had like a date night, and you're in the middle of the parking lot giving yourself shots. I mean, this is life. This is what you got to do, and that's okay. You don't need to stay home because of it.
No.
You can get through it, and you're always a lot stronger than you think.
And that idea of incorporating infertility and trying to conceive into your life as opposed to letting it take over your life, I think is such incredible advice to give. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacey, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time and your journey and your story. I've just loved watching how things have unfolded for you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad I found your program. It definitely played a huge role in everything, really the time and the support and just your gentleness again and your energy with it. It's really great what you do for everyone conceiving in this community.
Thank you so much. If people would love to reach out to you or learn more about you, what's the best way to do that?
Through the Instagram, Soul Mama.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I put a link down to that in the show notes as well. And I wish you nothing but the best for the rest of your motherhood journey. Thank you again, Stacey. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review so I can keep all this information coming your way. If you aren't already following me on social media, check the links below in the show notes to join me for more daily tips to support your fertility journey. And don't forget to visit my website to learn more about how the beautiful practices of yoga, meditation, and breathwork can support you as you're trying to conceive. Until next time, sending you all my love. The most common thing I hear from students who are on their fertility journey is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life. Your days end up being filled with endless appointments, navigating pregnancy announcements. You're trying to eat right, take all your supplements, and it is all you think about from the moment you wake up. I designed the Element Fertility Yoga course to support your body, your mind, and your mental health in 3 important ways: to synchronize your hormones, increase circulation and blood flow, and to help regulate your nervous system. But on top of this, the greatest gift that you can give yourself throughout this journey is a sense of peace, to help you calm your mind and just make this process feel easier. Every single one of my students tell me that this is the first thing they notice. after starting a yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. But on top of this, you have the amazing benefit of actually supporting and increasing your fertility. Studies have shown that those participating in mind-body programs as they're trying to conceive have success rates 3 times greater than those who don't. The course I've designed walks you through natural conception as well as fertility treatments and IVF cycles. And the best part is you can work through it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. The practices start from just 10 minutes per day. To learn more, visit elementpilatesyoga.com or see the link in the show notes.